Thank you for listening to this podcast from TRE, Talk Radio Europe, your voice in Spain and around the world. For more information, please visit tre.radio.
I'm doing good. How are you?
I was just thinking, I think the papers have missed a trick here. It's been a weekend of doubles. We had, so I Am Maximus winning the Grand National, and the only horse to do that since Red Rum consecutively twice. And then Rory McIlroy, of course, winning the Masters twice. So it's been a weekend of doubles. Let's play some music. Let's say good morning to Mark. How you doing, Mark?
I'm doing great.
Good.
Great weekend of sport.
Yeah, it's been a busy weekend of sport, hasn't it? And, of course, as I say, the Grand National there. And that's quite a feat for that horse. So well done to I Am Maximus. Are you a horse racing? And a lot of Irish people love the races, don't they?
It's a great day out, and that's, what is it? I think both horses were trained by Willie Mullins as well, so that's a great feat for him.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's always it was the time of year, the only time of year that my dad would put a bet on for me when I was a kid. So let's go to the Rugby Women's Six Nations kicks off. England, Ireland play in front of a record crowd.
Yeah, no, it was really a fantastic occasion. I mean, I think there was 77,000 people there, which is massive. Last year, I think it must have been 40 or 50,000. So this year to have 77, packed out Twickenham Stadium for an England and Ireland game was fantastic. Now the game itself, depending on who you ask, probably wasn't as great. I think England it was 21 up before half time.
Yeah.
And one thing important to understand about this fixture is that previously in the 5 fixtures before this, Ireland had scored a combined 15 points in 5 years. So, it's not like everyone was coming in thinking this is going to be, a clash of titans. That's very much reserved for the England and France game coming up in May. But there was an optimism around Ireland. They've been building, small victories, but important victories over the last couple of years. They've been putting the right people in place. And there's I guess a little bit of a feeling that they could come here and show the world champions something, but in true style, the Lionesses, true to their name, true to their title, were just phenomenal. The second half was a bit of a different story. It was closer stride for stride. Ireland came back and scored 12 points, and then England just added on to what they had, but it was much more even in how it was played, and it ended 33-12. So it was a great way to kick off both Six Nations for the teams. Ireland have something to take away from it, but definitely for England, it's looking very good. Fabulous.
It's been, as I say, a great weekend of sport. We've had the tennis as well, the Monte Carlo Masters, Yannick Sinner winning that, and of course the boxing with Tyson Fury beating that in his great comeback, getting a few million for doing so as well in the process. And of course the football over the weekend, Premier League. I mean, what some twists and turns over this weekend. It's been absolutely amazing, hasn't it?
So many just avenues and stories to explore. Of course, we kicked off the weekend in a pretty entertaining way with West Ham's 4-0 win over Wolves, which, officially put Tottenham into the relegation zone. And that's a whole thing in itself that we'll talk about when we come to Tottenham. But for West Ham, it took them a while to get into the game, but by the time the second half kicked off, they are really starting to completely overrun Wolves, who were defensively all over the place. And it was 4 goals, kind of total control. It was a good showing. The second big match of the weekend was Arsenal versus Bournemouth.
Yeah.
Run-of-the-mill game, but I guess unfortunately for Arteta, Bournemouth run quite a similar system to what Pep does, so it was almost a repeat in some sense of that Carabao Cup final. It was a huge result, and in a title race it took a deflection to get the first goal in there, but Gyökeres came back with a penalty, but Arsenal just didn't really settle into the game, and Bournemouth took their chances, and it was really a case of them playing really, really well, and that's all it was. And
Arsenal looked really nervous. They looked nervous. They looked like they didn't want to play. It was really odd. And I thought, we always talk about, Arsenal were losing it, but Bournemouth I thought were brilliant. They didn't take all their chances either. So it was a great match. And, but Arsenal just looked very nervous. They've lost 3 out of the last 4 matches. I mean, they've still got a nice lead at the front of the Premier League, at the top. But that's all could change as they go towards the weekend. Man City, of course, they've got to play Manchester City at the weekend in probably the biggest match of the season in the Premier League. so far.
This is, and that's something I find quite funny because, like as you pointed out, there was 9 points between them when that match finished, and I think like a lot of Arsenal fans online, I saw them going like, it's 9 points, it's all good. There's nothing to worry about here. But what I think most Arsenal fans didn't realise is City had only played 30 games.
Yeah.
Arsenal had played 32 games. So if City won those 2 games and then also won the game against Arsenal, it's all even.
Yeah.
So when City went to Chelsea, it was a big match because the mandate was, City win. It's all the pressure's on Arsenal now, and City won in quite a fashion, 3-0 against Chelsea. Never really looked like Chelsea were going to give them much else but that win. But it was. I mean, now the pressure is right back on Arsenal.
And credit to Pep Guardiola, because the first half, City did dominate, but Chelsea had a few chances. And, you could look like Chelsea could just nick a goal. But whatever he said at half-time, it seemed to work because they came out completely different team, really.
Once again, Nico O'Reilly, I'm sure we're going to be talking a lot about him if City do pull off this title chase, because he's been an absolute unit this year, and someone I'm sure we're going to see plenty of during the summer as well, over in the Americas. But there's also other important storylines happening.
Just to say quickly on that one, Mark, the other thing I suppose that Arsenal need to be aware of is that Ireland started scoring again as well, and not in the last match and before. So it's looking pretty good for City right now. It is.
All the momentum's going with them, and listen, it's very much what they said at the start of the season. They're no longer the hunted; they're the hunters, and there's a lot different mentality that goes into that. We had Crystal Palace make a comeback against Newcastle United, which, it's probably more important for Newcastle than it is for Crystal Palace, because if they sink too low, Eddie Howe mightn't be in a job for that much longer. Liverpool versus Fulham, Liverpool got a good 2-0 win, something just to not make the headlines, was good for them. And then the final game, of course, we'll talk about is the Sunderland Tottenham Hotspur, because this is the game that officially signaled to people like Tottenham actually may not be joking anymore. They might want to go down, because it was a fluke goal from Sunderland, but it was a goal, and Tottenham couldn't really respond to it at all, and it puts them in a solid fighting for 7th, 6th position. They're fighting for Europe, and unfortunately results went elsewhere. Nottingham Forest drew, West Ham won. So
Forest getting that draw against Villa was a big point for Forest.
It was,
but for Tottenham, they just. I did watch the match. I just thought. Well, I didn't think much at all. They just didn't. They got all these great players, and they're not doing anything. They're just really, really just not pulling it together, not being able to pass the ball, just really basic stuff. And giving the ball away cheaply. But, and Sunderland, of course, come up, of course, but they got one of the best defensive records in the league, and they are nobody's fool. And I did fancy Sunderland, and I was right. They did, and they played well. And so well done to Sunderland, which are actually not far off a European position either themselves. So
no, they're right up there with Brentford. One result goes their way. They're right in the conversation there.
So there we go. It's been a fantastic weekend of football. Derby did lose against Southampton on I think it was on Saturday afternoon.
They grabbed the first goal though.
Yeah, we can walk away head held high, but Southampton were the better team, and there's a lot of Derby fans saying, actually, you know what, we're quite happy to have a quiet rest of the season, stay mid-table, and then build for next year. It's a mentality coming out. A lot of Derby fans, we've actually done better than we thought we would, so we're not going to be too upset about that. We're not Leicester City. Let's just say that right now. And Leicester City really struggling, aren't they? Just not getting a win again. They've got Gary Rowett there, the manager, just not happening for them. Let's see. I've just lost my place, Mark, so let me see.
The golf. The Masters,
yes. The Masters, of course. There was a lot of talk. I think maybe you and I mentioned this as well, but there was a lot of talk beforehand about Rory's appetite for winning again once you've won it, But then I think we did both say as well a winning mentality that he has, like lots of greats in the sports, and you saw it again, the winning mentality again this weekend.
Definitely. I mean, the focus, at least what we looked on, and I know what many other established, probably more established experts looked at, was, your Schefflers, your Rams, even like Fleetwood and Rose were probably more in contention there. A lot of people just felt like, Rory hasn't been performing fantastically this season, and possibly, that was always a big indicator of who would win the Masters, at least in the last few years. Was the person who was doing it most in the tour was usually the person who showed up at the Masters. But little did I know, and I'm sure little did other people know, and Rory revealed it after day one, was that he was opting out of tournaments to go practice at Augusta, which of course, if you have a green jacket, you are allowed to play the course whenever. So he was actively opting out of tournaments, and I guess sabotaging his overall season to prepare better for this. And no one really knew that, but it definitely paid dividend on day one. Day three was a bit of a different story because, of course, he built up a historic lead halfway in, and he let that lead slip in what some would call McIlroy fashion. Is he never likes a simple game of golf. It's always some kind of excitement to it, and it looked like Cameron Young was doing a fantastic job. And even on the last day, two England guys, Hatton and Rose, they were right up there as well. They're really impressive. An Irishman, Lowry, was 9 under going into the final day. Unfortunately, he didn't finish the tournament great, but he did get his second hole-in-one on the course, which was fantastic. But of course, the big conversation was McIlroy, and it was a final day of ups and downs. Certainly started more down than up. Yeah. But one thing you'll notice about him if you go back and watch the highlights is he never really lost his head. No. Constantly, he was just calm, and he was trying to recorrect his mistakes. Even after that terrible day three, once his media duties was over, he was right into the practice range, and he was focused on fixing what was going wrong. So the only ever fourth player ever to do this at back-to-back Masters. So it's a incredible achievement, but it's come with a lot of practice and a lot of experience and a lot of downs, and congrats to him.
Yeah, well done. And he's an elite group now of Nick Faldo, Tiger Woods, Jack Nicholson, and of course Rory McIlroy, really for the greats of golf now. And so it just reminded me of losing your head. I remember watching my dad wrap a 7-iron around a tree because he was just about had enough, and it was raining. Anyway, thank you very much, Mark. Have a lovely day, my friend. Thanks for bringing us up to date. We'll have a full sports roundup again next week. Cheers, Mark.
Thank you very much.
You've been listening to a TRE production. If you've enjoyed this program, there'll be another episode waiting for you next week, right here on this platform, where you can also access our extensive back catalogue of shows and interviews. For more information on our live programming, social media channels and apps, and how to contact Talk Radio Europe, please visit TRE.radio.